Matt has we've been talking about kind of the realignment of trade routes going more north south rather than east west for a bit now, and we're starting to see some actual movements in headlines, I think, that are actually pointing to exactly what we've been discussing. So I'm gonna flip us to the next slide here, Matt, and I'll let you talk first about what you're seeing here in this Anaz Al Haji tweet.
All right. So I think while everybody's overly focused on is Hormuz open, is it not open, how's the war in Iran going, I've as I process this. Oh, and you also listen to just one more piece of color on that framework. Like this administration has no clue what they're doing. Iran was a mistake. That whole line of thought. Number one, assume that these people are competent, right? You can make bad decisions, but there was probably some intent behind what happened, like opening up Epic Fury. Why here? Why now? And if you look at the outcome of an action, I think one of the best ways to assess, someone's plan, while we have no way to actually look inside the veil, right? All of these geopolitical actions, the market, the public, we're not going to have privy to them. Some of it will make it into the National Archives, but we're not going to read it in our lifetimes, right? It'll be 80 years down the road for a historian to put together the narrative that the winners ultimately want to write. But if you're looking for the intent or the purpose behind the action, look at the outcome and just assume, with a positive like 80%, correlation, that action translates into the outcome, right? So if you start to see what's happening here, Iran, why did we do that? Well, the first order effect, we shut down Hormuz traffic. Next, the Houthis are tag teamed in. You shut down the Red Sea. The immediate aftermath of that, and you can see this in Anas Al Haji's tweet over the weekend. We made a note of this, but the export traffic volume coming out of the Persian Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz, also the Red Sea, most of a large share of that traffic was energy exports, and the consumption market for that was Southeast Asia. So now that we're starting to see the Q2 oil demand data come in, you're seeing, this is obvious, right? The ships aren't making it out. That oil's not getting there. Oil demand has to fall, right? So you're looking at Southeast Asia, the Q2 year over year numbers. You're seeing Japan down 6.2% in oil consumption, South Korea down 5.8. You go down the list. I'll skip to China down 12%, and then you're seeing countries like Bangladesh and Pakistan down 14 and a half, down 18.2%. I note those last two because they do have a dollar problem, right? Pakistan is out of reserves. They're sitting on either the second or third largest pile of defaulted debt, dollar debt, in the offshore dollar system, right behind Venezuela. So you see Bangladesh, Pakistan, those with the least amount of the reserves, the least ability to pay to get the limited amount of oil on water or energy commodities on water from the open markets, they're hit hardest. But the point here, this is Captain Obvious, right? Like, what was the intent of this action? It's starting to, the dots are starting to connect like a holistic story, like a Department of War plus Department of the Treasury. There's probably the technology and oil majors involved in this plan, but opening up this conflict, the result was the shipping traffic connecting energy supply from the Middle East to the Southeast Asian markets has been shut off. Now those oil barrels being consumed that are no longer there to be consumed, that is pretty much one-to-one correlated with economic growth, right? Energy is the base layer collateral or commodity resource in your economy's value chain. So the oil that's not being consumed in Asia or Southeast Asia, it's going to show up in the GDP growth numbers as well, which then translates into your financial system. And that's where you start to see this effort now that this sequence of events has shifted over into the intervention to strengthen the yen. You're starting to see what from the inside was probably a very logically laid out broader operation between all of those parties involved I just mentioned. But from the outside perspective, I think it's starting to connect the dots. Um, the next battlefront in this engagement is it's moving into capital markets.
Right.
So we're
Right.
seeing like this connects back to that first story we talked about with the intervention. All right, so that's the Middle East, Cameron. Then you spotted this story, the North Arctic. So China's Sea Legend, private shipping company, this week launched a full service route. It's basically like going to go for 7 or 8 weeks in this particular season before winter closes off this route. But the North Arctic route that we've heard talked about for, I mean, a couple decades now, that this was the future. You're seeing regular traffic from Ningbo to Felixstowe, the largest port in the UK. So weekly routes. And what this is doing is like you see on this map, the old route from coastal China, exports being carried into the European markets typically went up, across the Indian Ocean, up through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean, etc. Now we're going the other direction, right? So this is really opening up that new era we've been talking about like the total rewiring of trade routes kind of in real time. So you're
Yeah.
seeing this early indication that that's happening. What's going to go on the shipping route, right? It's mainly the Chinese exports into the UK and making their way into Europe on further stops. It's not really concerned what's going to go into China. That it's a question for a latter date. It's probably gold.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but what's
actually think UK had one of their largest. Actually, I'm not gonna say it because I don't have the exact stats here, but I'm pretty sure gold was one of the big exports
Yeah,
recently.
that makes sense. But yeah, the expectation here, what are we going to load up with? It's going to be time sensitive, high value manufactured goods. So what I'm seeing, and just kind of a laundry list here, but lithium ion batteries and other energy storage equipment, photovoltaic solar panels, new like energy EVs and components, electric vehicles, precision electromechanical and electronics products, and then other, it says e-commerce goods, electronics, and apparel, right? So higher margin stuff. um, but that's kind of a tell on what the new trade routes that are kind of forming up, taking place, and then also what the goods that are being shipped on those from east to west are expected to be for growth markets, or growth
Yeah.
products. All
And it
right,
ties
and
directly back into kind of our comments on Greenland and all of that as well in the past. So,
yeah, Cameron,
yep.
if you want to get the laser pointer out, just looking at
Let me
this
actually.
map, this illustrates why Greenland is so important. If you remember, back in January, the U.S. has to have Greenland in its economic sphere. Um, Greenland's right there attached to that ice mass, and it kind of is the other endpoint to tie off with Alaska. Um, so yeah, I mean, we'll see how this develops, but obviously it's a priority for this administration. They've been stating it for a decade now. So clearly, we're not going to let go of the ball there. All right, and then last story on the shipping routes build out. This was an interesting story about a ship. It's the C-SPAN benefactor, but we're not shipping experts, so don't know anything very deeply about the vessel. But the point that I found interesting here was that it paid what I believe is the largest auction fee to jump to the front of the line and make it through the Panama Canal. So just seeing that headline, I wanted to dive into the details. Where was this ship coming from? What is it carrying? And then from there, try to glean what we can about what's going on and what that can tell us about where the bottlenecks may be in global supply chains. But the ship was likely carrying regular Asia to the U.S. East Coast, containerized imports. So from essentially Southeast Asia into the Gulf of America. Endpoint would have been Houston and Mobile, Alabama. Um, so the urgency to jump the line and pay $4 million might not have been like if you were thinking about is this critical supplies or some inputs to, I don't know, Patriot missiles or something critical. I don't know, China or someone like that could have uh, put the constraints on that in the first place. So probably not like reflecting some sort of urgency or that whole story you see popping up about the U.S. is potentially running out of munitions, all that stuff. I wouldn't just because of the nature of this vessel, from what I understand, it's just regular container traffic. Um, the urgency was likely about maintaining the vessel's fixed weekly loops and then protecting the downstream logistics. So we talked about um, the what was the Chinese vessel's name? The Sea Fox. Yeah,
Yes. Yes.
Sea Legend.
Sea Legend.
Um, setting that regular loop running, weekly, 7 to 8 weeks in a row. It's like a flight from Seattle to Los Angeles or something like that. It's just a regularly scheduled route, that type of thing.
Yep.
Because there is such a traffic bottleneck right now at the Panama Canal. Um, if this container doesn't, arrive on time, and it's carrying over 10,000 ton equivalent units, so it's a large vessel. If this ship doesn't get to its destination on schedule, it just backs up the whole logistics and the bottleneck, or in the trains coming in behind it. So you're thinking about the port windows, equipment availability, late summer retail supply chains, getting ready for the holiday season, all of that.
Yeah.
I think this is reflecting a logistics bottleneck. If you think about, all right, that a major trade route from the Middle East to Southeast Asia is essentially zeroed out. Everything else then around the world has to like completely reorganize and adjust to that. It's like it'd be like a major airport going down in the United States, like O'Hare or Atlanta is down. It's like, oh, where do all the planes go after that? It would be chaos for a few days. Like you see those stories, airline travel, especially that once a couple of years ago when it hit like peak holiday season. I vaguely recall. I think like what we're seeing here, it's the Hormuz has been knocked out, obviously. I'm starting to view that as like that was the intent of the action in the first place. And I think the intervention is your confirmatory signal on that there was strategic intent there. And now what you're seeing on top of that is all of the trade routes start to reorganize.
Yep.
So it tells you where the different capital factions, how they're aligning, and then which regional economic spheres are aligning with each other. Obviously, we're seeing the Panama Canal retain its importance. Caribbean, Gulf of America as a growth market, and then the next growth market is China seeks to maintain integrations with Europe and the UK, and those latter two being codependent. There's no other option for them. I think is kind of the writing on the wall. You're seeing everybody scramble in real time and reacting to the 47th administration and the Department of War push the envelope on that front. So now when we go back a year ago almost, when we were talking about in September, October, all of the military top brass convening, was it in Quantico, Cameron?
I believe it was Quantico, yeah.
All the generals, 1 star above or whatever it was, they summoned all the top brass for one of the few times in the nation's history. Starting to make sense, I hope. After the fact, we're seeing the plan starting to work itself out.